So I've been playing around with a Blazor application recently, and I thought I'd share an interesting finding or problem that I've come across that I experienced. So for my Blazor application, I chose a framework called Blazor, and the reason I chose that was because it's a framework that says it's based on material design. So coming from a Vue background, I figured that I'd know most about how material design works because I've used things like Vuetify. So I thought I'd plug that in. I created my UI and I've got a form here that's got a couple of fields on it, and I'll just demonstrate the problem. So when I punch in a value into here and I tab out the field, I get my error pop up, and if I change this one, I also get an error that's coming from my validators. So that's all great, and that works as I would expect. The problem I experienced was when I was trying to clear the errors and then save the form. So I've got a message set against when this save button is clicked, and what I was doing was clearing all the errors and then clicking on the button, and nothing was happening occasionally. So if I just do that again and do it slower, I can come down here and I can click on the button and I get my form save clicked. Interesting. If I do it again, just to demonstrate the issue, click on the save button, except I don't get the save button clicked this time. So this threw me for a while and I couldn't figure it out, and I started looking around the save button not working correctly when you click it. But the issue is that you can see that the UI actually jumps around. So if I tab out of the field, but before I do that I put my mouse right over the middle of the button, if I now tab out, you see the whole form jumps downwards. And this is the problem, is that even though I position my mouse cursor over the button, if I position it at the top, this error gets cleared, and so the whole form jumps upwards. So if I position my mouse at the top when I click the button, I will get the mouse click. If I position it at the bottom, my cursor is no longer over the button when the message is cleared, and so the mouse button doesn't click. It's as simple as that. And this is something called cumulative layout shift, as I learned. This was an interesting one to me, and I wanted to highlight it because it's supposed to be a material framework based on material UI, and I've not experienced this problem with Vuetify. So if I jump over to Vuetify, here is the example Vuetify documentation, and if I clear this out, you can see there that the error appears, and if I now satisfy the error but I put my mouse over the button, nothing on the form jumps. There's no cumulative layout shift at all. And Vuetify is equally a material UI framework. So this seems to be something that's different between the way that a material framework is being created in the Blazor ecosystem, so Blazor, and the way that it's created in potentially other ecosystems. And it's not limited to just this one Blazor library. If I go over to another material UI for Blazor and go and look at their forms implementations, so here is a form and there is a login button, and if I click the login button, you can see it completely disappears off the bottom of the page because all the errors creep in and it pushes the rest of the form downwards. So this UI library, Blazor, would equally suffer from the same thing. So as I clear errors and tab off, you'll see when I put my mouse over the login button at the bottom of the screen there, if I tab off, you can see it jumps up, and if I punch in a password, you can see that the login button has jumped up, and so on and so on. So what can we do to alleviate this problem if we are writing a Blazor application? Well, there's a couple of things that we can do. So the Blazor library supports the idea of having helper text values beneath a field. So you could implement helper text values, and you can see there that that then takes up some space on the UI. But with that helper text value in place, when I encounter an error, the error message just replaces the helper text, so it doesn't cause that layout shift. So you could go that way. The other way would be to move your save button above the form. So then you can get rid of your helper text if you didn't want that. You can leave your form exactly as it was, and now you can have errors jumping around and appearing and disappearing as you want, and your save button, because it's above all of that, is not subject to that. So therefore you can just clear your errors, click the save button, and your save button is correctly clicked as you would expect. But this to me feels a little bit counterintuitive. Normally you want to scroll down the page, and then when you've filled in all of the form fields, you want to click a button to say, right, now I want to save that. So this would mean that the users then have to scroll right the way back up to the top of your page to save their information. At the moment, that's the only kind of workaround that I've come up with. So let me know in the comments if you've come across this problem, and if you've got any better ideas on how to solve it. It's a curious one to me that we've got a standard of UI in Material UI, and yet the implementation seems to be differing across various different ecosystems. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.